Each and every day. All right.
You ain't finna call none of our names like we just talked.
Introduce yourself. All right. Where is my pause button? Y'all ready? All right. I'm ready to fade it out, and then we're going on. All right. I believe that we are on. I just want to make sure I see yours first. Yes, no, maybe so. Perfect. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is John Jennings. I am your host of Theta Talk, and today with me I have three guests instead of my usual one, and I will let them introduce themselves now.
Hi guys, I'm Sharnisa Johnson. I'm a part of the Tauzai chapter of the Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Tara Neely, and I am a part of the Tauzai chapter of the Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated here at Georgia Southern University.
Hey y'all, this is Tanisha Smalls. I am a part of the Tauzai chapter of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated.
All right, before we really dive into it, I just want to go ahead and give a quick shout out to my brothers of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated who are out there at Cicero's. If you're feeling hungry, definitely go ahead and stop by. They're located right there by the small Walmart. But yes, right now I have these three ladies in here with me, and they're a little bit nervous because, as always, I never really tell them the questions beforehand because I like authentic answers. And I really wanted to do this topic last week, but some things came up, so I wasn't able to. And that's because September 13th in 1663, that is the first documented example of a slave rebellion. And the reason, yeah, that's a couple of shock faces. Yes, that's the first documented instance of a slave rebellion. And the question of the day, the main question is, when is the time for revolution? Because as you know, nobody almost ever, it's very unlikely that somebody just gets up and is ready to revolt right away. They go through a lot of stuff before they truly just have had enough. So the question is, when is it a time for a rebellion, and when is it a time to just sit there?
Ooh, John, I'm not gonna lie to you, that's a tough question, but I don't think there's ever a good time to just sit there. There's several different types of rebellions and revolutions. So it just depends on what approach you want to take at that point. But there's never a good time for you to just sit there and watch something happen that you know isn't right, if that makes sense.
Right. The other two?
Well, to add to that, I do agree with what my fellow soror said here, that there is never a good time to sit back. When something is happening within the society or within like your surrounding area, you should try and make an impact somehow. I wouldn't say really a rebellion because you're trying to help out with civil issues. You're not fighting against anything, by the way. You're trying to make things better than how it is like now. In the past, there have been many instances where people of the other community sector that try to place rebellion over us to make it seem as if to close our mouths or keep us quiet from trying to make a difference in the world today, because without us actually moving forward, we wouldn't have been this far how we are right now. Like, look at all of like the Black Lives Matter protests and what's not. They call it a rebellion, but we're calling it like a revolution. We call it like something like actually making an impact. Yeah.
I definitely agree. I feel like there's not a perfect time to whether sit back or take action. It's just, revolutions happen, rebellions happen every day. You know, some people may call it a smaller one, some people may classify it as a larger one on a bigger scale. But when people are fed up of unjust and or injustice, they tend to speak up about it, you know, and that's where you get your so-called rebellion or revolution from.
Okay, and then Charles, you said a good point that I really want to touch on. You said there can be different types of rebellions. So I mean, of course, they're like the main ones that come to your head. Like you're out there, you're in the streets, you're protesting. But what are some of the other types of rebellions that you guys have seen or would recommend? Because like you said, sometimes people try to downgrade and downplay and say that when you're actually out there protesting, that's a bad thing. I mean, they can quickly twist the narrative from being a rebellion and a revolution, it could quickly turn to something like a riot. And so what are some of the different types of revolutions and stuff like that we can use?
The one I wanted to touch on when you said like it being a bad thing for us protesting and rioting, but who is it a bad thing to and who is it a bad thing for, if that makes sense? Because not to get on like really touchy subjects, but when they were storming the White House, there was really nothing said about that. Like it wasn't bad for them. But when there were certain people out protesting and rioting for certain people being murdered and killed, there was tear gas being thrown, rubber bullets being shot. So it's definitely on a spectrum of when it's rebellion and a revolution, depending on who's doing it, But there are different types of things. Like Tanasia was saying, there could be smaller revolutions. And it doesn't have to be a protest. It doesn't have to be a march. But standing up for something is a revolution, is rebellion. If you know that there's something being done that isn't right or against your morals or something, even like influencers on social media, like they rebel, they start revolutions. So there's different types, like you were saying, and those are different. There's different models that we can use. Like there can be softer revolutions. So yeah, I guess instead of like protesting and marching, we can do things like social media. We can do strikes, like stuff like that would be a more, I wouldn't say beneficial, but it would veer away from
alternatives.
Yeah, it would veer away from the rioting and people potentially getting hurt, if that makes sense.
I agree with that. To add to that in terms of like finding different ways, different avenues, like there are so many like issues that's happening today, whereas you don't have to be on the street holding up a sign and say, hey, blah, 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 XYZ, you need help, blah, blah, blah. But finding a way that works with you on how you can help. Like, for example, with Sigma Gamma Sorority, we help out within the community by helping with women's health, helping out with children who are less fortunate, cannot afford certain things. And that's a way for each individual to help out where they can. Whereas you wouldn't expect to see me on the street holding up a sign saying, hey, we need books for children. No, I will go out my way and hold up a sign and say, hey, donate books to children. Here's a box right here. Do fundraisers, I can help them wherever they can. And it's I guess I don't want to say it's like a rebellion kind of thing where a large majority of people just stand in a section to speak about the same topic over and over and over and over. But there's a saying that if you keep doing the same thing like with no result, then that kind of makes you like a fool. So if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and you see there's nothing being done, you have to try and do a different approach. And that's how I would like people today to like, okay, these marches and these different things are not working. It's been done in the past, yes. And it brought us to a point where, okay, it made a difference. But should we keep doing that? This is the 21st century. We gotta find a different way. We can't do the same thing our ancestors and people in the past was doing. Because like, at that point, the other people were like, oh, we saw this before. We already know what's up. Same thing over and over. The shooting, the next thing. Oh, XYZ. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. My cousin just got shot by the blah.
Whoa.
But like you gotta just find like a different like way to bring awareness to that situation. It cannot be the same thing all the time. Because about as far as I'm concerned, other people might be tired of seeing it too. The police will be like, okay, y'all here, but we know what to do. This is the regular thing. We gonna bring out our SWAT team. No, y'all be serious. No, I'm being so serious. Like we gonna bring out our SWAT team and we can do what we gotta do. And the other people who storm Capitol Hill, like they know they can get away with it because they know the other community, our community, gonna do the same thing regardless. So they're like, well, we know if they do this, the police can deal with them. If we do this, nothing can happen to us. It's gonna be a constant back and forth, and nothing's gonna get solved. So that's how I feel about it. Like,
I definitely understand that. I think it's time to take a new approach.
Yes.
We have so many different mediums and outlets that we can use, and I'm not saying that we're basically aligning with the standards that they already have for us by taking the approaches that we have taken already. But as Tara was saying, like they know those methods already. So what we're doing and what we're doing it for is not being heard. Like our voices are not being heard. They're just like shut it down.
Yeah, they're making a mockery out of us at this point. Like they're looking at us like a joke. Like, oh, look at them on the street doing the same thing like they did last year.
And
like,
then they just use it as ammo to come back to say they're acting like crazy people, basically.
Yeah, I mean, on a lesser note than that, as far as, different type of, rebellions or revolutions, I agree everything what you guys are saying. I do feel like there's different revenues and different avenues that you can take to, protest, to revolt, to rebel. It's no different than like, if you were in school and, there's a bully, you're gonna stand up to the bully. You're not gonna let him, continue on with his bad behavior. That's being a rebel. But you're standing up to the bully and in turn helping who they are bullying.
Yeah,
it's no different.
That goes back to what John was saying in the beginning though, like when is it the right time? Like, cause when you referencing a bully, like when they first start, it's like, okay, all right now, okay, and
then. I mean, that's to where it differs between people. I'm the type of person, I'm not gonna sit there and watch somebody bully somebody. I will speak up to you, I will say something to you. You may not like what I have to say, but you gonna hear it. But not everybody is like that. It all takes, everybody's approach is different, so people just have to find the approach that works for them. But we also need to be on the same page with each other as far as our community and work with each other, not against each other.
Yeah, that's true, because just because I'm not on the street like protesting or rioting or anything like that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not fighting for the same cause. Like I'm just taking a different approach to it. Like Tara was saying, I'm not that's not my style, that's not who I am. So we're still fighting for the same cause, we're still on the same page, we're just taking different approaches.
And that's fine. Like everybody can take different approaches. And we just need to unify together and empower each other instead of trying to tear each other down.
So y'all done said a couple things, and they kind of all tie together. Like y'all say, the people are very often able to flip the narrative, and that kind of made me think of Malcolm X's famous quote, like the media can make the innocent look like the guilty, and the guilty look like the innocent.
Exactly.
And then I hear y'all touching on how everybody has their own media, and not everybody does the same thing, not everybody moves the same way. So then that leads me to my next question is, what are some other ways to rebel? Because we all know that like almost nobody, like the first time something happens, you're like, okay, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, maybe. But then after a while, you're like, okay, this isn't gonna keep happening. So like rebellion doesn't happen right away. It kind of takes some time. But like we keep touching that, not everybody has the same type of rebellion. Like, when we think rebellion, the most popular thing that comes to our head is the protest, like the out in the streets. But what are some other ways? Because like you said, that may not be your style. You may not want to go out in large crowds. You may not be able to feel like your voice can be heard that way. So what are some other ways that people can actually get involved in, show rebellion in other ways rather than just going out and protesting?
Ooh, I understand. Gotta think a little bit, but like I said, there are several people in the community that's known. Like even here at Georgia Southern, we have several communities that are known, whether you're like a dance group, whether you're Greek, like all of those people are very much so known. So like just voicing like your opinion, like just speaking out, people are going to hear you because they listen to you, they follow your social medias, like all of that stuff. So you just being like a well-known influencer is a platform to rebel or to revolt, like putting that opinion out. Once it's like telephone, like a game of telephone. Not saying, not using it in a negative aspect where they're like the story gets mixed up by the time it gets to the end of the line. But like if I'm on your social media and I see you like, let's support this, I'm like, that's a good idea or whatever. So now I'm on board, and that trickles down to the next person. Like, oh, I seen on John's social media, we finna do this. I seen on Tara's social media, she's supporting this. So social media is a great platform. Also, just being out in your community and making sure that people know you support them. That can go to like community service. Like you don't have to just protest racial things. Like it could be something for the community. It can be something for like recycling. If that's something that you want to do, you don't feel like people recycle enough. I don't know, but go out in the community and do those things. So that'll be more like a follow the leader type thing. But I'm not gonna support nothing that I don't see you doing. Like I see you doing a lot of talking about it, but are you out there in the community? Are you doing it? So just getting the community involved and being actually out there and like practicing what you preach, it can also be a sign of like a revolution, like change, because that's what it is. Change. It's not like just let's start a war. Like what changes? What changes do we want to make? So just putting your best foot forward and like practicing what you're preaching, and also like going out there and doing it yourself. Even if you're a one-man team, like one becomes two becomes four, like eventually it will multiply.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. For me, I feel like different types of protests you can possibly do. Like Sharnisa said, definitely social media. Social media is so heavy in our society right now. Everybody's on social media, from your auntie, your grandma, your cousin, your 2-year-old nephew. Everybody's on social media, so it's a perfect platform to ever voice your opinions. Just like how the Iotas do this, little radio show. You could get on the little radio, talk about, issues on live, on air. You can also boycott,
Girl,
what?
not boycott.
I mean, but boycott works
part.
though.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't like the way a certain company moves,
Exactly.
and you don't buy their product, all of a sudden you now have to adjust.
Exactly, they now tank because you're not supplying into their demand.
Now, granted, they might not necessarily agree with you regardless. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, I'm not
it's the baby steps, it's the small
Okay,
steps
I
to take.
understand that.
It's
I
the
get
unity
that.
behind it, because if you get a whole community to boycott, let's say a business, they could start tanking depending on how well that community influences that business. They could tank. I mean, you also have other types of protests where, you can go on strike. There's plenty of workers that always go on strike for, unjust working conditions. Even writing letters to like your local congressman, speaking out in government rallies, signing petitions and things like that. There's plenty of ways to, other than starting a riot or being in a riot,
and it doesn't necessarily have to be a riot because I hear riot,
yeah.
I get what you're saying. I mean, but it's crazy because every time I hear riot, like my whole perception of riot has changed over the last year, because you always hear riot and you think it's a really bad thing. Yes,
Yeah.
but then like you'd always hear that, but then after seeing like peaceful protesters, and then you have people who were maliciously joining the protest just to wreak havoc, and then all of a sudden everybody's classified as rioters and looters and thugs. That really threw me off, because I'm like, okay, this whole time I'm getting the idea of a riot, but then who's really to say it's like a riot? Like who's pushing the narrative? Like your person is this side.
Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right about that.
And to bring back to what you were talking about, like the different types of rebellion. Personally, I wouldn't use the word rebellion. I would say like there's a difference between like rebellion and revolution, because like rebellion is there's a connotation like you doing something illegal towards something like something malice. So in terms like those people joining like the protest and rioting, that would be a rebellion. They're being rebellious, but the people who are part of the protest, they're trying to revolutionize like a situation that's happening right now.
So what's the difference between a rebellion and a revolution? Because in my head, when I think rebellion just means that you're going against whoever is in charge, whoever's in top. So like if you rebel against the majority, so you know if the majority is doing wrong, is that necessarily a bad thing that you're rebelling?
See, I think that's the misconception between the words as well. A lot of people have different definitions for different words.
Yeah.
Rebellion, when people hear rebellion, they think of a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Rebellions don't have to be negative. Like you just said, rebellion is you going against whoever's in charge or, you know, creating the unjust situation. That doesn't mean that you're being negative. You're trying to fight for what you believe is correct. Why should that mean that, oh, you're a rebel,
you're a bad person?
You're a bad person. No.
And I like how you said that, because then what really changes is a rebellion versus a revolution is depending on what side you're looking at. If you're the side who has people going against you, all of a sudden it's a rebellion. But if you're on the side that's doing it, oh, it's a revolution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, and that kind of brings towards like how media portrays a lot of things. Like I know a lot of people mentioned about different ways to show rebellion, and there was like social media and stuff like that. But if the person that's like a lot of people who are not genuine on social media at all. Like being on social media myself, on Twitter, on TikTok, and all these different places, and there was a time where they were like, oh, show your support for Black Lives Matter by putting a black box on your Instagram page. And a lot of celebrities or a lot of like influencers did that, and like the day after, wasn't even like 24 hours again, took it down. And that kind of shows like, hey, media is really portraying like our struggles as a joke. It's not genuine at all. They're not taking it serious, and it's hard for us to show our rebellion, how to show our revolution into towards us, and actually try to work to fixing it. If like nobody's on board and trying to make anything better, everybody's just looking at it like, oh, I'm just doing it just to show I support. And there's a lot of jokes talking about, oh, this person of a different race did something to me, I'm gonna take Black Lives Matter out of my bio, blah 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 blah. And I'm like,
that's like where I was going back to the whole we gotta stop tearing each other down thing and building each other up, because that's a prime example of tearing somebody down. You're only doing it for the clout, so to say, posting it and then you're deleting it. Nah, leave it up there. But show that you really about it.
Yeah, I definitely understand that, and you saying that kind of brought me like to where I am now, like what I was about to say. When it comes to like rebellions and revolutions, they are so strong and they do go so far because of frustration of things like that. So like if I am out in the community doing something, I am trying to make a change and nobody's hearing me, I have to go to the next resort. Plan A didn't work, so now on the streets. Like right now we fighting the police. Like right now,
exhausting all the options.
Yeah, because nobody's hearing what we're saying, and it's like you get so frustrated. And if you see somebody like one day they got a black box up, the next day they don't got the black box up, it's like, are they taking me as a joke? Okay, like let's switch factors, and now I'm aggressive.
So now you said that really makes me think of something. So initially we said, well, when is the time to start a rebellion? So now that you said that, when is the time to stop a rebellion? Because there have been plenty of times, like I know over this last year, you would see everybody push for certain things, and then all of a sudden they give us the slightest victory, and then they stop. Like we talked about this last week, or excuse me, the week before. And you know, it'd be very common that we'll push for an issue, and we won't actually get true justice for the issue, but we'll get a mediocre, like a little trophy, if you will, like, hey, this is a way to like deter you from keep going. And then all of a sudden we stop because we're like, okay, we got this. Like the example we used last time, we had what was it? So we were pushing for, you know, having the teaching of critical race theory and stuff like that. And they're like, no, we're not gonna do that, but we'll make Juneteenth a national holiday. And then we're like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. We gotta stop there. But then it's like, what did that really accomplish? Like, Because now, to us, we're like, okay, we're doing something, but in reality, it's just a way for them to silence us. Because at the end of the day, that doesn't really change how people really think. It's not really in changing the mindset. So, like, when's the perfect time to stop a rebellion or a revolution?
Two things that I want to hit on from that. One, I think the time to stop a revolution or a rebellion is when you're not fighting for what you originally started fighting for, or when you lose sight of the cause.
What if the cause gets bigger? So what if, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but what if, like, let's say you're fighting for equal rights for black people, and the next thing you realize, it's not just black people who have this whole thing, it's minorities in general. So then, granted, you kind of lost sight of what you were originally fighting for, but now are you supposed to just stop now that you're fighting for something bigger?
Yeah, but that's not necessarily losing sight of the cause. That's like gaining clarity of what you're really fighting for. When I say losing fight of the cause, I'm saying like when now you're just fighting because like there's aggression going on, there's an issue, and you're like, they're not seeing what I'm seeing. Two, you have to understand that there's always three sides to a story. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
So people, it's like an argument. So like you're speaking and yelling, but you're not listening. So you need to approach the situation like that's what's going on. And you have to get that other person to understand this is where we're standing. And that's when I come to my second cause, my second point where you were saying like, they're just feeding us trophies. And we've got our heads so wrapped around that, like I don't want to offend nobody, but you gotta understand like nothing is gonna go a mile. Like you have to take an inch at a time. Like they're not gonna be like, boom, let's do it. Like even when it came to excuse me for everybody that's up to date on their stuff, but the officer that didn't get he got a couple years, but he didn't get as many years as like he didn't get life or nothing like that. He got like 20 some years maybe.
Oh, Derek Chauvin.
And everybody was like, what
Exactly.
in the like they were flipping their script, and I was just like, okay, we said we wanted him to get sentenced. Usually it'd be like pat on the wrist, we see you, paid vacation, like paid suspension. So I really don't know how to approach it, but it's gonna take inches before we can just be like, this is where we need to be. I don't personally, some things they do be like, let's just drop this little treat in the pen so they can stop acting a fool. Sometimes I do think that, but sometimes I think it's an actual genuine step. But we got our minds so far against, like, they hate us, they against us, they don't want to see us succeed, that we don't see when they're taking those genuine steps. And then we keep rebelling, we keep protesting, and so I think that would be a good time to stop. Like, understand when gestures are genuine. And at that point, if you're not understanding that, then you've lost sight of the cause. You just want to be angry at something, and that's okay, I guess, but don't act like you on our side and fighting for what we fighting for because you mad. And then that also goes back to what you were saying about it being more than like if you're fighting for like Black Lives Matter or something, and then you realize something else. Like, I don't fight for Black Lives Matter. Sorry to offend y'all. All lives matter, okay? It's not my fault I was born black. It's not my fault somebody else was born white. All our lives matter. So at this point, we need to be fighting for equality and not my life matters. Because at that point when you're saying Black Lives Matter, which they do, everybody's lives matter, I guess. But at that point, you're fighting because we're not the majority population. Like, and white people are the majority population, so we should be fighting for equality and not because we want to be treated higher than somebody else. Because white lives matter, Black lives matter, Mexican lives matter, Hispanic lives matter. So at that point, I think they're just angry and they lose sight of the fight. So stop rebelling and stop the revolution when you lose sight of the cause. To sum it up, thank you for joining my TED Talk.
I definitely agree. what you were saying. I feel like definitely if you're if you're no longer focused on the bigger picture at hand, then that's the time that you really should stop, because you became too consumed with everything else that you no longer have the drive, the dedication that you once had before for the bigger picture that was at play. Like, and then even going back to what you were talking about as far as giving you little trinkets here and there, I 100% agree. Like, I mean, it's great and all. We love that Juneteenth is now a holiday. I love it, but is that really fixing anything?
Like, what did that really
like,
do?
even painting the Black Lives Matter on the street down in DC, did that really change anything? We need laws change. We need everybody to come together to show unity, to show equality. You painting on the floor is not doing that. Yes, we love it, but let that be after. I mean, no, I'm not going down. I'm not going down.
That's actually
I'm not gonna downplay, people.
But it's
some
on the
people actually
pavement.
like
You know
it.
what we do to the pavement?
Drive on. I mean, yeah.
I mean, but it. Some people act like it. I'm not gonna downplay what some people like, but I just feel like let's fix everything else first, and we can get that after.
Then we get symbolic victories.
Correct.
That's true.
But I want to piggyback on what John was saying about losing the focus. That if you are focusing on your median community, and then you notice that something else is happening outside, this is why I vouch for people asking for help. Like, if you know you cannot do this on your own, and you know that someone else in another community is facing the same exact issues, that's a good time to bring all those communities together. In that way, I might have an idea, you might have an idea. Oh, I didn't realize that this is something that we all could collab together. And that way, it helps it won't let you feel discouraged from actually keeping focused on what your main goal is. It'll help you move forward and keep pushing that. Okay, this person is helping me from this community. This next person helping me with this, helping me from this community. I know that I could reach my goal where I need to reach to, and no one can stop me because we're all working together. And in that way, I feel like we'll be able to bring a great impact to all the social issues that's happening in our community today and in other communities today. In that way, it won't be a minority to them, it'll be a majority, because now we're all forces together. We all could, find a little bit, that kind of thing.
So y'all said two things that kind of thought provoked me, because I kind of like how you gotta take an inch. You can't just expect a mile.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like that doesn't mean that the fight is over at the inch. I feel like a revolution should never stop, because at that point, the second you stop, that's when, because once you start making inches,
they're gonna think that
you start making so then they're like, okay, cool, we got them to stop. So I feel you really can't stop. And then
you can't stop. You just gotta
keep going.
Yeah, but take things genuinely. If you feel like, okay, they gave us this, just calm down. Don't. Okay, so say you go crazy or whatever, protest, riot, and they okay, we heard y'all, this is what we gonna do. I'm not saying stop altogether, but just take a tiny step back to be okay, regroup, now what's next? Don't ever stop until you've reached the goal that you initially set out. Because if it's not where you want to be, then don't stop until you get there. That's why if somebody say, I want to be a millionaire, and then they get a good job and they making a couple $1,000s, and they're I'm comfortable. That's giving up on your goals and giving up on your dreams and stuff like that. So I don't think you should stop, but I don't think you should be so aggressive or hard hitting with it. But like you were saying, them painting the pavement that's not sufficient for me. I don't think I would be oh, thank you.
I feel like, I hear what you're saying, but I feel like as far as the aggression, nowadays the aggression is needed because nobody's really listening to us. Like y'all said earlier, everything that we do as far as trying to bring awareness or trying to make change, they take it as a joke. So if you're not hearing me while I'm quiet, you best believe I'm gonna get loud.
Start making some noise.
I'm gonna get loud and I'm gonna make some noise. This way y'all can hear me. That doesn't mean that you have to be belligerent. There's definitely right and wrong ways to go about certain situations, but I do feel like the aggression is needed, and you should never settle, because you just like when you raise your kids, you don't tell your kids to settle for less.
Mm-hmm.
You tell them to achieve their highest achievement they could ever possibly achieve in life. It's no different when it comes to standing out and speaking out in justice and revolution. Don't settle for less.
It could just be, you just never know when it comes, because like you want it to be a good outcome, and then but you don't want it to backfire, like John was saying with the media. Like you want it to be a good outcome, but they still take it and flip it into something that it's not, and so now you're back at square one with us being like animals and like stuff like that, and they're like, we're not going to reward this type of behavior as the government or whatever, and so it's just touchy, you know.
I feel that, but I mean, everybody's always gonna have something to say. There's gonna be haters in the world.
Right.
There always will be.
Yeah.
But just like the old
They
saying
hate on
goes,
Jesus.
but just like the old saying goes, sticks and stones will break your bones, but
Don't, words do hurt. Nah, hold up.
It's just a
different
saying.
subject.
It's just a saying though. Like everybody is gonna say something about you.
Yeah.
Whether you let it go to your head is another story. Whether you fight against it is another story.
Yeah, but if coming from like the media and stuff, like especially like the news, if you're supposed to be reporting something that's gonna be very like influential on a lot of people's minds, and that's how a lot of people like get their information from, and you're spreading a false narrative, that's where it's gonna keep that divide. Like
Exactly.
talk about Fox News anyway. Yes.
Ooh, girl, you gonna get us shut down.
But I'm just
Don't be
being
name dropping.
anyway. But every news station and like there's like always this like left and right divide kind of thing, and you can always tell like the difference between what's being said that's like a lie and what's being said that's like the truth, and you'll be like, this is why a lot of people come up with their opinions that just is not helping with any of the situations you're trying to solve. Like it's just making it worse. So at the end of the day, yes, we could keep moving forward all these different like approaches you're trying to do, but if we do not like start with the media and start with the news and actually letting them know that, hey, stop spreading this false narrative, stop like spreading this information that is true. And that's why I kind of glad like Facebook are really doing like fact check, like a lot of social media today doing fact check, because it's like, why are you spreading all these lies? It's gonna cause like more turmoil,
Right.
like more issues, and then we'll never be able to move forward. Like ever since social media came into place, that's like social media is good and bad, and like the bad side is just a lot of divide, a lot of information that's like, oh, I didn't like the way you said this because this person said that,
Right,
and it's
right.
like, it's like he say, she say, or she say, they say kind of thing, and it's not like, well, I can't create my own opinion
Mm-hmm.
because I'm listening to what everybody else say. A lot of our opinions come from social media, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like
being
if you
honest.
speak with somebody who spends their time on Twitter, who spends their time on Instagram, who spends their time on TikTok, you will see that their opinions are way across like a different
you can see where it's
spectrum,
coming from,
a
yeah.
different spectrum, and it's now like, how am I supposed to sit down and talk to you about like social issues if you coming to me about
With somebody
Things
else's
just-
opinion.
someone else's
Yeah.
words, like
No facts. And that's
if you
another
can't- if you
thing.
can't back it up,
Yes.
would you come to me before about that? Like
People are running around speaking on stuff that they don't know. Like they're
Right.
fighting somebody
Yes.
else's fight. So I
Mhm.
definitely understand
Mhm.
that when it comes to like standing up for a cause or something. Like if it's important to somebody else and it's not important to you, you don't even know why you're fighting. Like
Right,
that
right.
makes
Yeah,
no sense.
exactly.
People
Yeah.
are
Don't be
always
on the forefront if you don't even know what
If you
you're
don't even know
fighting
what's going
for.
on.
Oh my God, and that's a
Mhm.
good point, Tara, because
Mhm.
social media is definitely like the place to see that people are so like want to conform so bad to be like popular or something. Like they're speaking what people want to hear
Exactly.
and not what they really
Yeah.
feel.
There's just a lot
Yeah.
of there's a lot of followers in the world and not enough leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we need more leaders in the
Yes,
world than
yes.
followers.
Yeah, but people are
Mhm.
scared. Like even with the celebrities that were taking down their black page on
Mhm.
social media, they're scared about what
Other
other people
sponsors or losing
are
sponsors.
going to say.
Yeah.
Like they built up this image, and so
It doesn't work with their
anything that
aesthetic
Mhm.
kind of thing. Oh,
anything
But,
that
like,
destroys that image.
Exactly, but it shouldn't matter to you if you really true to the game.
Right.
No, like what everybody says should not matter to you as long as you know what you fighting for is right and just.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter what kind of backlash you get from it.
Right. And with that being said, because we're getting ready to wind it down, so the final question. The final question. I see y'all looking a little shocked. Yeah, we've been going about 40, 45 minutes. Final question. All right. So we've discussed like when to start a revolution and when to stop a revolution, how there are different kinds of revolutions. But the main thing right now is what are some words that you have for somebody right now who could be thinking like, like right now they probably have some issues in their community, in their group. So what are some words of encouragement or words that you can really just give somebody right now that might be facing some type of, revolution now or some type of fight that they need to go through?
That is crazy. Whatever your fight is, whatever it is, whatever you stand for, stand on it. Be courageous, be proud, be you. Whatever it is, don't let nobody talk you out of it unless it's like bombing something. Please. We do not encourage but yes, definitely be proud, be courageous, be you. Whatever it is, like stand on it. My aunt tells me all the time, stand for something or fall for anything. So whatever you got going on, even if it's like the minutest thing, like stand on it. Don't let nobody make you back down from that.
I definitely agree. And just piggybacking off of that, I definitely agree with that quote. If a man stands for nothing, they fall for everything. You never want to be somebody that stands for absolutely nothing, because again, you will fall for anything that comes your way. Any fight that you may be fighting, doesn't matter what it is. If it's small to somebody, it can be big to you. Doesn't matter. It's your fight. You stand tall to it. Make it true to your heart, and never let anybody back you down from it. Yeah. It's your. At the end of the day, you know in your heart what change you're trying to make or what change you're trying to look forward to. So nobody should ever be able to change that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You either have allies or you have enemies.
Yeah.
And you always want to gang up with the allies and fight the enemies.
Not fight. We do not. Sigma Gamma Rho does not.
Not fist fight the enemies. You know what I mean?
No, I don't got no fancy quotes now. Personally, I would say like if you notice that there's like a major issue within your community, like really sit down and like write down what those issues are. So you have like a clear focus on what you want to focus on, and like plan it out. Like really like sit down and be like, okay, I see this is the issue, and I feel like this is how I'm going to solve it. Or even if it's like, okay, I don't really know how to solve it, speak to someone, because there are younger and older generations today who could be able to listen to what issues are happening, and once you have a conversation with them, you'll never be able to realize that, oh wow, you have like wisdom, you could have an idea of like how to solve this, how to fix it a little bit, and then go from there. And if you ever like face a hurdle, just know like you can always walk around a boulder. Like a boulder never stops you from where you gotta go. Just think of like a different approach on like how to deal with the situation, because at the end of the day, Jesus walked on water, okay? So you still let the storm stop him what he was doing. But anyway, but yeah, like don't stop what you're doing, keep focused. If you gotta take a break, remember, take a break. Mental health is very important, please.
Definitely.
For whatever reason,
absolutely.
please take a break, because you will burn out. If you cannot solve everything, just know that. That's a main thing. You cannot solve everything. So just know what your main focuses are. Plan it out, speak to someone, take a break when you need to, and then go from there.
Yeah, and I know
definitely very important. That's a topic for another time.
Yeah, I know we definitely closing out, but just one more thing to piggyback off of Tara, like just understand, like she said, you can't fix everything, and know that you're not the only person that's having that issue. You're not the only person that's having that problem. You're not the only person that's having struggles and hurdles. So, like today we was saying, like your allies. Find those people, literally reach out, speak your mind. Also, if you have questions, find resources, do your homework, fact checks, like all of that stuff. And that's just what a little bit more with others.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. And we're gonna go ahead and wind down. Once again, if you are feeling a little hungry, go ahead and head to Sacheros. Support the brothers of Iota
They
Phi
got
Fraternity
percentage
Incorporated.
69 tonight. Come on, go out and
Most definitely.
support.
Go ahead. And I most definitely want to give a big thanks to these wonderful ladies right here.
No
Of
problem. Thank you
course,
for
of
having
course.
us.
Thank you.
Follow us on social media at Towels Out Poodles.
Exactly, please.
Yeah.
And I got a little shout out. Shout out to my best friend Alhaji Tompadu.
Okay.
Shout out to my baby.
But yes, we're gonna go ahead and wind down. Thank you all for tuning in, and you guys can catch us next week, next Tuesday at 6:00. Don't miss it.
Yes.
Thank
Period.
you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.